Yeah, so we have another artist here today. So Elena Anderson, she is the co-founder of Nashville Women in Jazz and the founder and director of Nashville Musicians for Change. She has worked with Urban Housing Solutions, but today she is going to perform a song to close out this joint meeting and start the next session. So here you go.
I'd like to just ground us in why we're here today, and it's because of art, right? We all are here on a common understanding that art is important, and how we support artists is where kind of we are creating tension, because there's no answer, we don't have the answer, and we're trying to work together to figure this out, right? My experience with Metro Arts has kind of shifted dramatically over the last year. I applied for funding during the pandemic as an artist and didn't receive it, and personally felt like it was because I was a musician and maybe I needed to be in a different place, because maybe Metro Arts didn't see music as an art focus. And a lot went into my understanding of where Metro Arts was going through that experience. Over the last 2 years, I've developed more of a relationship with Chuck and have been trying to understand more about the future of Metro Arts. And so I'm happy to be here to listen to and be a part of the conversation of moving forward. But I think it's important that we acknowledge how integral music is in the art industry. So I'm happy to share with you a song that I wrote a couple years ago. And as most artists, I haven't completed and I haven't released because of funding. I have to work multiple jobs to be able to afford to live in Nashville. And unfortunately, I don't make the money that I need to survive from music. So when I was asked to sing here today, I was like, what am I going to do? I typically perform with a band in a dark club, so this is very out of the norm for me. So I'm like, am I going to sing a cappella? Like, I play a little bit of ukulele and piano, guitar, but I don't really do that in front of people. It's more for songwriting purposes. So I'm going to share with you a very unreleased song that I recorded in the studio a couple years ago. I spent thousands of dollars on it and still have yet to release it because it needs thousands more. So, all this being said, however you're feeling right now, if you need to close your eyes and just like get away and pretend we're in a jazz club or, you know, your favorite club, wherever you go to relax or listen to music or wherever, I'm going to share with you a little bit of me. I hope it speaks to you in some way and help us get through the next 2 hours. Do the same questions, earn the same answers. Well, where I'm from ain't the thing that made me who I am today. I'm here from many different times and many different minds. And conclusions are made along the way. It's the journey, not the destination. Growth is learning how to be okay. I can't keep taking myself for granted and giving myself away, 'cause I'm the only one here at the end of every day. I gotta step back. I got 2 fans.
destination. Cause from this morning, how to be okay. I can't keep taking myself for granted and giving myself away. Cause I'm the only one here at the end of every day. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. I'm taking care of TCP. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Taking care of TCP. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. I'm taking care of me. I am taking care of me. Cause I'm never gonna give it up. Cause you're never gonna give it up. Never gonna give it up. I'm never gonna give it up. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. If you find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. I'm taking care of me. Step back, let me clear my mind. I'm getting off track, losing time. Step back, let me clear my mind. Step back and let me clear my mind. I need some time. Let me clear my mind. I need some time. I think we all need a little bit of time.
So, as Chuck was saying, I'm a musician, I'm a community organizer here in Nashville. One of my projects is Nashville Women in Jazz, where I bring together women and marginalized voices in the jazz community to help empower each other and share resources and help connect each other with opportunities in the city. And one opportunity that I've built for us is a residency at Urban Cowboy, where we are performing every Thursday night from 7 to 10, which is tonight. If you're not doing anything, if you really need a drink after this, all of this, Urban Cowboy is a great spot that is supporting women. And so come check us out every Thursday at Urban Cowboy from 7 to 10. Thank you.
Lovely. That's great.
Thank you so much. I've known you so long, I've never heard you sing. And that was awesome.
Really awesome.
All right. So I guess I'm moving it over to Grants and Funding Committee. Sherry?
Thank you. Okay, so I think everybody has heard by now. We have some choices, and I'm hoping that all the commissioners had time to look over all the scenarios. Grants and Funding is strongly committed. No, I shouldn't say that. We recommend.
Yeah, so I saw this in the notes, and I'm sorry. We probably should have talked about this first. All right, because I don't have, do we have the next slide with the, so let me just, we have got, okay, cool. We have been advised by Metro Legal that the conversation around the last vote definitely put us in jeopardy, and so we are going to have a conversation about this vote that we made last week again. It wasn't necessarily about the vote. We have had a conversation for a long time on how we want to prioritize Metro funding. And that prioritization is around what type of organization size that we want to prioritize. The conversation had that in it, but it had other things that made Metro Legal concerned about the vote that we took. So we need to rescind the vote that we take. Metro Arts is Metro Legal is recommending that we rescind the vote from January 20th, and that we have a new conversation. Sorry, July 20th, my bad. And that we have a new conversation around how we want to allocate funding moving forward for this particular grant year. I do not have the language for that, so do we just, if we, to make this motion, is the motion to rescind the vote and then subsequent votes, like?
And then we have to go for each cohort. So first you will rescind the funding vote from July 20th, and then we have to go through each cohort and rescind each one of them.
Okay,
So I would make the motion to rescind the vote on July 20th.
Seconded.
All in favor? Wait, is there any discussion? Wait.
Let's make sure our verbiage is specific, that we're rescinding the vote for the grant distribution.
I think,
Thrive is not a grant, so we should just funding distribution.
yeah.
There were multiple votes on
On-
July 20th, so we need to be specific as to which vote we are currently.
So then the motion is for rescinding the vote on funding distribution, right?
Seconded.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Do I need to rescind every vote that we took after that? We basically voted on the prioritization, and then we voted on each cohort after that. So we have to rescind each one, okay. So the next, so we had, we took a vote on Thrive. And so I will, sorry.
I'd like to move to rescind the vote that we took on the Thrive funding.
Okay. We got a second? Any discussion?
I have a question. Can we just state the actual vote that we took on that, just for the record? So for people who may not have been here, so they know exactly what we're rescinding. If we just say we're rescinding on Thrive, people may not know what Thrive was or what that scenario A was, and we can just state that.
That would be great if we had that. Do we have the votes that we took? I mean, I don't remember.
So we now need to reconsider the rescission that just happened. We need a motion to reconsider the rescission that just happened. We want to restate the motion.
You can just do that moving forward. It doesn't have to be on the first one we did, just moving forward. And maybe you have that since this is the legal's recommendation.
Okay, so we stand right now, we are in discussion. We had a motion to rescind the vote that we took on Thrive for grant allocation. And so we have a first and a second, and I'm opening up for discussion. Okay? Seeing, sorry. we didn't-
Not to belabor this, but to address what I think Leo was asking for is, last time my understanding was that the Thrive vote was to 100% in line with the funding proposed to fund that at 100%. And that's just for the public's understanding of what we're rescinding right now for this purpose.
Okay, thank you.
I'm still unclear. Are we rescinding, is A, or what were they, what was the scenario 1, 2, 3, and 4 on our last meeting?
So here's what we did, just to clarify, what we did at the last commission meeting, we voted on which funding model that we wanted to use to prioritize funding. We had enough votes to approve scenario A. After we approved which funding model we were going to use, we then had to do a vote on every category within the funding model. So we had to vote to fund Thrive, we had to vote to fund the micro, large, all the categories. So we took a separate vote on each one of those categories based on the funding model that we voted for. So we just rescinded that's okay, I think this is good. Everybody needs to know what we're doing. And so any questions, it's fine. Do not apologize for it. So the first vote we took is to rescind the overall funding structure that we approved, which was scenario A, based on the scenarios that were presented at the last commission meeting. So it was scenario A or 1, the first one. So that's what we already rescinded. Now we are taking we're voting to rescind each subsequent vote that we took to each allocation category. Everybody got it? Now, but I don't know that we have the exact language that we used, Leah. So I just want to be clear. I'm not sure that we have that. Before we say that we're going to do that for the rest of these votes, do we actually have that language that we used? Good comment on the minutes.
And Chair, if I may the reason that I asked that question is because I want to make sure people understand why we are rescinding. Not necessarily what we voted on, but why do we need to rescind? Or why is that the recommendation from legal? If we could just get that on the record.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We were advised that the discussion centered around race too much, predominantly, even though we talked about zip codes and individual artists and council districts served, budget sizes, but the fact that we talked about race so much, they are worried that it would lead to a lawsuit.
Can we hear from legal exactly what the language is and exactly what the rationale is? Yeah, even though race was only one of the factors that we used.
Correct, but when it came down to the vote and opinions were asked of the commissioners, race was seemed to be the prevailing factor in the decision.
Any other discussion? Okay. So we have a motion to rescind the allocations that we made last month for Thrive. There's been a second. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We do have now the language. Thanks, Daniel, for reminding us we have these meeting minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to rescind the vote that we took for funding the micro-organizations in alignment with scenario A.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the vote we took to approve funding for small organizations in alignment with scenario A.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second from Sherry. Any discussion? Okay.
If we recused ourselves on the first vote, do we have to recuse ourselves for the rescindication nomination, whatever it's called?
Clarification for legal?
If we recused ourselves on the initial vote, do we need to recuse ourselves on the rescinding vote?
Not on a rescission vote. On a rescission vote,
Rescission, that's the word.
Okay.
on a rescission vote, even if you abstained or did not vote, you can be a voting member.
Okay. Good question. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, or to rescind the vote that we took to approve funding for medium organizations in alignment with scenario A.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the vote we took approving funding for mid-sized organizations in alignment with scenario A.
There's a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the vote we took to approve funding for large organizations in alignment with scenario A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Who was the second? Sherry. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. So I believe that we have properly rescinded all the votes from our last meeting. Now, Sherry, I am going to pass it over to you to give a report from grant and funding.
Thank you, Mattia. I'll be very brief as well. I think we all had a chance to look over the clarification on the scenarios 1 through 5. And I, as a chair of the Grants and Funding Committee, we put forth the recommendation. The entire committee put forth the recommendation for scenario 1, right? They're not A, B, and C anymore, it's 1. And I will just keep it as brief as that, and I believe that Chair Powell will make the next step.
Okay, so the Grants and Funding Committee. Sorry, I'm gonna get used to this mic. I do like it though. Y'all should give me a mic. That's a bad idea. So the Grants and Funding Committee has made a recommendation. I think the best part for us to do, the best way for us to handle this conversation so we can keep it, timely and orderly is to have a discussion about the proposal that they are making, and then see how we want to move forward after that. So we have a motion from the Grants and Funding Committee. Do we have
a recommendation
from the Grants and Funding Committee? I believe we do need a second from the commission.
And I would second it.
Okay. Now I am going to open up the floor for discussion, and this is where we're going to have a discussion about. Yeah. Oh, Tessa. Oh, I thought the recommendation was the motion. It's not?
If a committee,
No, it's a recommendation. There's still got to be a motion.
For a recommendation.
Okay. So, sorry. I will entertain a motion to accept the recommendation from the Grants and Funding Committee.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
There is a second.
Okay. Now I'm going to open up the floor for discussion around this particular motion. This is the time, if you have conversations, to have them.
Mattia?
Yes.
I prepared something because otherwise I'll get too nervous and say it wrong. Okay, to my fellow commissioners, I spent hours yesterday poring through all the handouts and emails, attachments, and notes going back to late November, when the Community Committee met to work on the simplified application process for Metro Arts grants for Thrive and operating budgets. I needed to remind myself of exactly what the process was and what was agreed to. I was highly disturbed by the language in some of the communications that bombarded me via email. There's not much that is simple about the funding formulas. The application process was simplified, particularly for the smaller asks and organizations. In the document that was presented to us via email on December 1st, 2022, the panel recommendation on page 1 refers to a cap allocation reading, quote, should the total ask amount be unavailable, which actually did come to pass, a percentage will be assigned to all organizations that allows for the maximum grant amount, first honoring that all organizations receive a grant greater than or equal to the previous year, and secondly, honoring small and medium organizations' full asks. Our commission made a commitment long before I came on board in 2020 to become as fair as possible regarding race, class, age, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, age and income status, all of the above. It does not single out anyone. The commission has also formed a committee for anti-racism and equity. This is all documented on our website. The scenarios, plural, presented to us, whether lettered, scenario A, B, C, or numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, are the options assembled as percentages of the asks. When the tables were formed, the desire to be as equitable and fair as possible, taking into consideration the commitments we have made to become a better commission than we have been in the past, and to lead our community to be better at the personal and institutional levels. I voted to present all the scenarios at the committee level, whether they came in the form of an extensive spreadsheet or a narrative, to the whole commission, because this is an important decision not to be taken lightly. But the few people that are on the grants on the grants committee, I did lean towards the heavier weighting for the smallest organizations and individual artists through the Thrive program. But when I went back to all those many handouts and emailed documents presented for comment and consideration, and reminded myself what was agreed to, it's a long time between meetings and a lot of information to learn and retain. I now acknowledge that we should follow through on the commitment made in December, which I quoted earlier in my comments. Scenario 4 is the closest of all the proposals that keep our promise made to the community members who gave of their time to put the process together, and still the awards to the small and micro asks get amounts between 1/4 and 1/2 of their total budgets. That is a significant gift. Not our optimum result, but as close as we can get and still keep our word. So let's be careful in the future what promises we make leading into the year 2025. And we can move farther towards equity in support of those baby arts organizations and those that have a smaller reach, but a greater impact on individual lives. We cannot achieve all of our goals in one year. And if we break our word to the community, then we may do irreparable harm to the commission itself. These are my personal opinions. It pains me to disappoint the people who have worked so hard and so long to lead us to a more equitable state. But when our word is given, a promise made, we should not turn our backs on our integrity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else? Questions, comments? This is the time.
I guess I wonder when exactly we made promises to the community. What were those promises? Did we in fact?
Yes, in the document that was presented on December 1st via email to the commissioner, to the committee, the grants committee. Let me find it. Like I said, I went through a billion. Okay. This is a printout of the email that was sent to me. It said, should the total ask amount, okay, this is the document produced by the committee that simplified everything. The cap allocation, should the total ask amount be unavailable, a percentage will be assigned to all orgs, meaning organizations, that allows for the maximum grant amount, first honoring that all organizations receive a grant greater than or equal to the previous year, and secondly, honoring small and medium organization full asks. So that is where my conscience came to really bother me, is that in accepting and not voting down in committee that document presented to us by that community committee, we're going back on our word. They gave us a lot of time and they gave us a lot of effort. Yes, they were paid each $500 a person to do that, but they put a lot of work into it. And so there is an implied promise there. And we should be very careful what promises we make in the future. And it pains me to say we can't move forward right now in supporting those small organizations the way I feel like we ought to. But when the promise was made, I feel obliged to vote against the first number 1, and I would vote for number 4.
I just want to be
Ma'am.
clear real quick before we go, and because I know we have some folks that are on the commission around the table, and you definitely are welcome to sit here. But as we're doing these deliberations, the only folks that are going to be able to talk during this period is commissioners. So I just want to be clear about that, and staff, if there's questions for clarifying. So I just want to be clear about that. Jim?
Well, I'll ask a question since it was raised by my neighbor over here, and then I want to make some comments as well that I've also written down, Mary Ann, so don't feel bad because I didn't feel like I could get through it either without screwing it up. And I have heard the conversation around the promise and the expectation of my recollection of the conversation that we had in, I believe, December around the revisions that this commission in a majority, and I was not one of those people who voted for that, but that there has been conversations about whether or not a promise was made that if we didn't get, that the new allocation formula, if not fully funded, that there potentially could be cuts to organizations. I heard that everyone was going to be held harmless and that, Daniel, could you please enlighten me to, because we've had this conversation a couple times about this, and I know you have said that there was a caveat to that. I don't think that the arts community, at least a lot of the organizations in this town, heard that if that was the case, and I haven't gotten the tapes. I know they've been requested. Can you explain that to us? Because we're hearing different interpretations of that.
Sure, thank you, Jim. So there are a couple of things that I think will help give some data to that. So the first thing is that we made the promise based on what the administration promised us. We had multiple conversations with the administration about where we were going. We moved the grant cycle up based on what was told, and they told us to ask for what we would need. We got the grants done in time for them to be able to address it in the budget, and multiple people in the administration said it would be given to us. So I hear you, Mary Ann, and I hear you, Jim, that we made a promise, but we made a promise based on what was told to us in building the budget and moving the grant cycle up. So I completely acknowledge that, but since then, we also have a study that says that the path we have so far is not sustainable. And so I think that is new information that has come in since the decision was made. And so we have to take that into consideration as well as we move forward. And right now, I think scenario 1 is the most equitable way to move forward.
Who do we have next?
I asked to be recognized when he finished.
Okay, sorry, Jim.
Should still have the floor. Thank you. Daniel, I hear that, and maybe that's a lesson in the way budgets, operate. We shouldn't set something out and then until we know how much we're going to get. It happens all the time in government, and that's just par for the course. So it's disappointing, though. And I'll make my comments. I first want to say thank you very much to the Grants Committee, the arts community, CARE, our staff, and to the public for all the input we've received in this difficult process. And I especially want to say thank you to Chair Busey and to the Executive Committee for taking on really complicated work. I know this is not easy. It is not fun. Hasn't been fun around here for a long time. If everyone would just indulge me a bit, I wrote down my comments just to keep myself on target for what I'd like us to consider. Over the last several weeks and months since the council passed the budget, we've been awaiting the final outcome of what the funding we receive, and both a blessing and what I think might be a curse. At this point, we received both the largest increase in funding, almost $2 million more, albeit one-time funds, and we came up far short of what we had hoped and advocated for. A ton of work went into preparing last year to change the dynamics of our funding model, a worthy goal to expand and include more artists and organizations in our pool with an eye towards making sure all of Nashville's diverse communities were receiving the benefits of increased funding. However, I don't think with the funding we have and the tensions that have now been created over the last several weeks that we can move as quickly as some might like us to. I don't believe the Metro Council gave us $2 million more to institute cuts to organizations that have been serving Nashville well for many, many years, at least not without time to properly budget and plan for those reductions. I don't want to rehash everything that's been said in public comments and emails, but I don't think scenario 1 is the right thing to do right now. Here's why. Another scenario, scenario 4, lives up to what I would say, some would say was promised, that the current grantees for FY23 would be held harmless for FY24 while we make this transition. We can quibble about the qualifier that was attached to the statement, but I believe a majority of the arts community thought that was the case and that we should take that and I think we should take that into consideration. Scenario 4 funds by my count on the chart, and I may be wrong on some of this because I'm not a math person, but it funds 34 new organizations either with general operation dollars or Thrive funds. Many of those are the diverse groups that we all want to include in our pool. Of those new organizations, we fund 19 new micro-organizations, 8 new small organizations, 5 new medium organizations, 1 new mid-size, and 1 new large. That's 32 new organizations with budgets under $500,000, which get funding now in alignment with our end goal. Scenario 4 increases the Thrive budget from $178,600 in FY23 to now $875,382 in FY24, nearly 5 times the budget we've ever spent on Thrive. Even with having to reduce the grant awards in Thrive, we still expand the number of artists and organizations who get funding to 132 in FY24 from only 22 in FY23. Again, we move the needle towards greater inclusion in the funding pool. Scenario 4, I think, also hopefully incentivizes us all to come together in the arts community to increase our funding again, permanently, I hope. Hopefully to reach our equity goals in the new administration and the new council. And frankly, I hope that the way we pull this together later in the year doesn't foster the division that we've seen today and over the last couple of weeks. I also think scenario 4 comes with a big warning and advance notice to all the arts organizations of our city. And my interpretation of that is this. My sense is that this commission is going to shift funding, and it's coming, moving from organizations who have long benefited over time, and that funding is going to be shifted to individual artists and smaller organizations with our intention to grow them for the future benefit of Nashville. Expect and plan for this next year unless we meet our worthy goal of getting much, much, much more budget. And we should be very cautious about the expectations of that in the new administration. It is a lot for an incoming mayor and incoming council to take on in the first year. 2, for those new micro, small, medium organizations and Thrive artists we are adding, please do us proud and show us how we can help you continue to grow and work with us to grow the funding. And 3, next year, this is a reminder, we start in a $2 million hole. This gets much worse if we don't all come together and push for a permanent increase. I would ask the commission to take all that into consideration. I know there's a motion on the floor to approve scenario 1. I happen to believe there's a way we can do this. We can move the needle, but I don't think that it's scenario 1 at this point. So thank you for letting me say that.
Paul? Well, thank you so much. And after a lot of consideration, a lot of emails that came our way, and a lot of opinions expressed, I am concerned that we did make promises that we are not about to keep. And I do think that every single person in this room wants to see changes. And I think those changes are inevitable and they are coming. How quickly they come, I think, is the question. If you do it too quickly without thoughtful consideration of all the factors, I think we can make a giant mistake. I think robbing Peter to pay Paul without really understanding what Paul is doing might not be the way to go. I think change has to come. There's no question we need to fund more micro, small organizations. I was one of them. I kept a magazine afloat on fumes for 10 years, was how small we were. And I hear you over there, madam, I forget your name, but I totally understand where you're at. I was in exactly the same place as a half Arab myself, trying to get things going in the arts in Nashville. I understand that every dollar is important, but I also want to consider what the gentleman said over there, that decisions were made, hiring decisions were made upon things that we had said. He had employed people, he had formed his own direction based upon what we had promised, and now he is also now going to have to make changes. Now, these are organizations, but they are people. I know we say it's an organization like it's something up there, but they are actors, they are dancers, they are musicians, they are human beings all making a living and that we're trying to support. You know, I understand that. Just because they happen to be the Frist or the Symphony or whatever, they are still musicians, they are still artists, they are still people who are struggling to make a living like everybody else is. So I understand that we have to look at small organizations, artists. We were the first people that introduced Amari Booker to Nashville. I was the first person to do an article on him, recognized his talent years ago. There's a place for all of that, but I don't think chopping the legs off the bigger organizations immediately, right now, is the way to go. I think it has to be done thoughtfully over time so that they too can change their models and find other revenue streams to keep themselves afloat, whilst we're also encouraging and fostering and nurturing artists and small organizations to grow. I totally get that we have to pour water on the seeds, like that gentleman said. Couldn't agree more with you. We just don't have enough water to feed everybody right now. But we can, over a period of time, do that. And I think that's what we have to think about. Even if we pass this today, all that money's not going to trickle down to everyone that wants it. Not every artist in Nashville is going to get the money. Not every small organization is going to get the money. I mean, it's still going to take a lot of time to get it there, but we've got to do it thoughtfully, and we've got to plan it so that no one is injured along the way. We're talking about the arts here. I don't want to see casualties along the way at all. You know, that's not what my magazine did for years, but we just can't do it overnight. It has to be done thoughtfully, taking everybody's aspect into consideration. Thank you.
Commissioner Angelico?
I appreciate everybody's input. You're all smart people, you're good people, I like hearing from you. There's a lot of talk about promises right now, and there's another promise that I'm holding in my heart here, and that's my promise to leave Nashville better than I found it, leave this commission better than I found it. My deeply held personal belief is that people who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And what I am hearing unequivocally from the arts community is that artists are not getting what they need. Individuals, small and micro organizations. And that's my deeply held personal belief. And that is why I'm going to support the Grants and Funding Committee's recommendation, why I would vote for scenario 1.
I'd like to be heard.
Okay, we'll go, Carol, you can go, and then we'll go with Commissioner.
I'm on the Grants Committee, and we met on Monday. As a matter of facilitating discussion, it was suggested by Clarence that option or scenario 1 would be put on the table. It did not have the endorsement of the committee. It was for discussion purposes, so that's what we're doing right now. And we only put forth scenario 1 through 4. Scenario 5, which I found in my email, was never discussed by the Grants Committee, and I don't think it is appropriate for it to have been inserted as a recommendation from our committee, because we didn't do that. Thank you.
Dexter?
And I'd just like to say, Jim, I appreciate your statement. Given what you say, I think that the changes that number 4 makes are probably more appropriate for what we're doing today.
Sherry?
And I would also like to say that the public comment today was incredibly moving on both sides of the issue. And I think as commissioners, we need to look at both sides of the issue. I'm not capitulating. I'm still all for number 1, but I will say this. If we do not adopt number 1, we need to do something. I don't know what it will be, but for next year's allocation, I mean, we can't make a promise right now for this. I think we've learned our lesson there, but we should all make a commitment as commissioners, especially if we're on the commission for another year, that change is a coming, and it needs to come. If I'm reading the room right, and I'm not trying to make any predictions, but I really think that if we put number 1 off the table, we really need to make some changes and look deep within, because they need to happen. And I cannot thank the public people that they're here in this room. I cannot thank you enough for everything you said. Thank you beyond. That's it.
If I can just take a point of privilege to share and speak. I know there's other people that want to speak too, so I want to make sure we recognize everybody. I'll just say this, I have been on the commission for a while, served on the Grants and Funding Committee. And while I know this may seem like it was like a quick turnaround, we have actually been talking about reallocating funding for years. As long as I've been on this commission, in fact, that we've been talking about it. And I think this is the first time we've ever tried to make a step to do what we've been talking about for 4 years. So I know for some people it seemed rushed, but for me, it does not seem rushed. It seems like we keep talking about the same things and we never move forward on anything. We just talking. And at some point, we have to do what we say we're going to do. I completely understand everybody's perspective in this. I run a nonprofit, so I understand budgets. I also understand thinking you're going to get funding and when you don't. And as Lydia has mentioned, a lot of times that does happen and you just figure it out. So I understand the challenges we're facing. I think that we have a very vibrant art community, and I don't think anyone here or in the space wants everybody to succeed. I think there are great intentions in this room, so I am not trying to act like large organizations have this scenario, have this agenda, and artists have this agenda. They all want to eat, and we all should be able to eat. But when we have not enough funding, we have to figure out how we're going to allocate that. And as Brother Waters said, I think you figure out who needs the water most. And in my scenario, that is the smaller organizations. Now, I'm not going to act like I'm a fan of all these scenarios. I'm just not, but I want to be in a place where we're actually funding smaller organizations. I am going to struggle voting for scenario 4 when a $55 million organization is fully funded and a small organization is not. I feel like if we're going to figure out how we allocate this money, then we can't say the new people that come in who hasn't had access to this funding, now you get a little bit less because you just applied this year. I just really fundamentally have an issue with that. So, we're going to make a vote here. We may not be in consensus or everybody may not have the same opinion, but I feel like we should find a scenario that does prioritize the micro, small organization, individual artists, because in a time when you don't have funding, you think about who has the opportunity to get funding, and I think they're going to be the ones that struggle the most. So, and I just would like to see a scenario where we prioritize those organizations.
Here, as Jim was saying, even with scenario 4, the needle does move, right? I know, according to this, the larger organizations are completely funded, but the smaller ones too are funded, as he points out, several times greater than we've ever funded them. And the message is clear that that's the way that we're moving toward funding the smaller ones, which I'm for, totally. I was looking this morning. I was reading about many artists throughout the ages who have, little ones who have made incredible impacts on our community. A lot of the ones from the Impressionist period, for example, and modern art. Initially, not most of them had no one to support them, and so what I see us doing and supporting the smaller organizations is allowing them to thrive. And scenario 4, I mean, from what did what was Thrive the last time we funded it was at.
We funded 22 projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were funded at 100%.
Yeah, but they were 10,000 and less. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I mean, but this 875 figure that we have in 4 is how many times greater than 5 times greater than what we had. So it's moving, and that's what I need to see, and I'd like us to be where we need to be. But given what some of the commissioners have said about promises, whether they promises that are out there, I do believe too that we need to honor what we've said to them.
Well, I have a quick comment that's not really for this commission, but I just want to just share a parallel because we on camera. Hey, camera. Right now, while we are here trying to figure out how to, divvy out a few $1 million to over 100 organizations who are making the city more beautiful and more great, there are probably people across the street trying to figure out how they're going to spend $70 billion to build a stadium. So I just want to say that on camera. That we shouldn't even be having to have this conversation. We should think about our priorities as a city and what we think brings value to the city. And I personally think arts is one of those things. So I just wanted to make that
I couldn't agree more
clear.
with you. If we could just get 10 million or 20 million from them, it would help. Couldn't agree more with you. They could just give us a little bit more money.
Daniel?
So I just want to respond and we've talked about being transparent to the public. So I just want to be transparent and say scenario 4 is inequitable. And you can choose to vote on the inequitable scenario. That's absolutely up to the commissioners. We also made a promise to equity 8 years ago. That hasn't happened at all. And so I acknowledge that we shouldn't have made the promise about what we could give organizations, but the promise for equity has been made 8 years ago. And we also identified through the Thrive grant process and the editing process that the community that needs it most, the place that the triage needs to happen, the place that the bleeding is happening the most is in the individual artist, the micro, small, and medium artists. And so that was also identified. So now you're all welcome to vote in any way you want to vote, but I want to name it in the spirit of transparency that it's not the equitable scenario. And that's completely up to the commission to vote. And you had all of these scenarios the last time as well. So somehow, well, I guess I just want to say it on the camera that I want to state for the record that it's not the equitable scenario.
It's not completely equitable, but it is going in the right direction. And given that there are other things to consider as well as the promises that were made, we're in a very, very difficult situation. So I think the middle ground is to move in that direction, but not to move in that direction immediately. We all recognize we have to keep making those changes to get to a more equitable solution. But given that other factors weigh in on that, I don't know that we can just do it immediately. I think we have to do it a bit at a time. We've got 35 new applicants on Thrive that were a lot more money was 5 times the amount of money is going in that direction. And I think that's fantastic. We have to keep moving in that direction, no question about it. But I don't know that it can just happen overnight that quickly without hurting other people. And I'd like to not see other people hurt in that process. I think there's a way to do it where everybody comes out hopeful that we're doing something good and in the right direction for everybody, not just a small group.
All right, Commissioner Angelico and then Commissioner Perez.
I just want to share two things. First of all, part of the reason that I prefer scenario one is because we are building an orders of magnitude larger coalition of support among the community. It just strikes me that that's a priority for me. That's just something I really want. And I also want to say that I'm just doing some back of the envelope calculation, and on average, the reductions for the largest organization, on average, they represent 1/4 of the executive director salaries for those organizations. I, for one, every day that I participate in a Metro Arts meeting is a day that I do not get paid, and I ask off for my day job from a guitar store operated by, it's just a mom and, I would say mom and pop, but it's mom and mom. And that's my reality too. So that's again, that's just why scenario one makes the most sense.
Commissioner Perez.
Am I trying to put my thought together on many comments that I've heard? I think we've, for many years, have moved in and only one direction, that it hurt many people. I don't think this is something that came overnight. I don't think this was just put on our table. Even though I've been part of the commission for probably like a year and a half, which is not really much time. I don't feel that this just came to my table over the night or imposed. We were part of conversations. We've been part of analysis, decisions, and this is not something, again, that have been imposed. That's not how I feel. I don't think that's how it is. And I don't think when we talk about scenario one, which is what I'm supporting, we are not acknowledging the largest organizations. I don't think there is a middle of being a little or a bit of equitable. It is or it's not. I think we need to move in that direction. If making the vote today is like quickly, then we need to do it quickly, but it hasn't been overnight. It's just that we need to vote right now. That it is. It's been discussions. We have seen, we've heard people, we've heard the community many times. The scenario one is the more equitable, and I believe we're not doing this lightly. I'm sure that we're not doing this lightly. The Commission of Metro Arts and the staff is going to keep working for the best of the entire artistic community. This vote doesn't mean that we're going to forget about everything. And I know the 24 hours, 7 days a week that the staff is working is showing that.
Commissioner Edward.
I'm exhausted. Felt compelled to speak. Everybody spoke, so I'm ready to just get to the vote. I feel like, scenario one is me, honestly. When the mayor called me to ask me to be on this commission, I initially said no, because I don't do politics. But then I thought about all the underground artists who go to my space. All the underground artists in Madison that who I exhibit. I've done over almost 150 events in 2 years from underground artists. I totally understand and respect the industries, the the larger organizations. I applied to a lot of those larger organizations, like a lot of other people as well. But one thing that stood out to me, like someone said, is just like the pay, you know. Take that into consideration, how much these organizations are paying them. And it's to a point where me, just as a small one-man person, somebody work with me, they want the same amount. And I have to pay them that same amount as these larger organizations. Well, they're not even gonna work for me. So that's something I take into consideration when I think about scenario one, because what I'm hearing is y'all saying the future, but we gotta pay our bills tomorrow. And I'm just sitting here, I'm listening to everybody, but I'm also like, once I leave here, I got an art show right after this, and I hope I sell a piece of art. Because if I don't, I'm F-U-C-K-E-D. You know, so I think I respect everybody's decision. I think some are definitely more wise than me and more skilled in that, but I wanted for the public record that I'm here for the underground and let them know why the mayor brought me here and why I'm going for scenario one. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Commissioner Love, did you want to speak? Oh, Daniel?
So I know we're focusing on the amount going to Thrive, but the applicants have increased there, and we heard that we can do more outreach. We did that, right? Like you said, do more outreach. We did it, and we got you the 150 applicants, and now you're saying we don't have money to give them. So each time there's been a requirement by the commission, we've tried to meet it. So first, CARE was stood up. Then CARE was told you need to do a 360 analysis. They did that. Then they were told it's not strong enough to be an independent research, so you need to get that by independent committee. So we got an independent research firm do the disparity study. We've increased the Thrive applicants. We've done everything the commission has asked us to, and you keep changing the goalpost for us, right? So I want to say that out, like, because we're saying, well, maybe people don't hear about the programs. These 150 applicants heard about it. The new 35 applicants heard about it. And now you're saying, well, next year. So the commission is changing the goalposts constantly for the ones who are most disadvantaged. And yes, it hurts everyone, but again, going back to the image of the triage, the loss has to be distributed not equally, but in the places where people cannot take it the most. And the individual, micro, small, and medium organizations cannot take the loss if they're bleeding right now. And so one last thing. You're also working with public taxpayer dollars. So if you're in a private philanthropy, you could take 3, 5, 10 years to phase things in. Now you're taking taxpayer dollars, money that's not ours, to say we're going to sit on it for another year, and then we'll be equitable next year. If I were a taxpayer, which I am, I would say that's not good stewardship of taxpayer dollars.
Jim, did you want to say?
I had a question. Who raised the grant amount to $20,000 on Thrive?
It was done through the community-led editing panel, and it was then given to grants committee, and then the commission voted on it.
Okay, we have talked, sorry, go ahead. Commissioner Bill?
Thank you. I don't know the secret to success, but the secret to failure is trying to make everyone happy. And because it's impossible. And I know that not everyone's going to be happy at the end of this vote process. There's been a lot of anger and a lot of dissension amongst a lot of people in this room. And I really hope that after this vote, we can all realize that we're all dedicated to the arts and that we have a big $2 million drop coming next year. And I hope that we can all come together and row in the same direction and all use our passion. And I've gotten some very passionate 4 a.m. 25-page emails over the past couple of nights. And I just hope that we can all come together, and I hope that we can channel that passion into the larger picture and keep our eye on the larger prize that we all have to raise the entire thing if we're not gonna have a lot more pain in the next year. So I know there's a lot of passion in the room, and I just hope that after this we can all come together and we can channel that and we can row in the right direction. Everyone at this table is supposed to be a leader, and we all need to step up and we all need to be leaders going forward if we're going to help the entire arts community after this vote. Thank you.
Okay. We've had ample discussion. I feel like we should move towards a vote. We've had a motion and we've had a second, and we've discussed.
Call the question.
Thank you. We need a second for the call the question.
Second, call the question.
Okay, great. So all in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Yes. So I feel like we're going to need a raise of hands so we can, because I don't think we're going to be able to tell by voice. So if you, we have a motion for scenario 1 on the table. If you are in favor of that, raise your hand so that we can accurately count that vote. Okay. If you oppose scenario one, please raise your hand. Okay. Did you get that? Yeah. Any abstentions? Okay. Can we get the numbers, please?
Did you vote?
I did vote.
Yeah, it's 6 in favor and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against.
Okay, so the motion fails. All right, so we did not pass scenario 1. So I think I'm going to open up the conversation for us to figure out which one if there is one on the table that we do want to pass, because now we're out here. Jim.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve scenario 4 with the added caveat of the staff and the commission calling everybody into the room in an open meeting to have a discussion on how we move forward in the fall. That's my motion.
So we have a motion on scenario 4 with the caveat that we have another public meeting where everybody comes in and decides on how we're moving forward.
That the staff lead discussions with the community on figuring out how we move forward.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second.
So I'm putting forth my amendment on the motion, and I also would like to put forth to the commission that we also have a one-on-one with the new Metro Mayor and the new Metro Council, and let them know the quagmire that we have been in for over a year. And they need to step up to the plate. I'm not trying to threaten anybody, but we need to have a discussion with the new administration.
If your motion is to amend and talk to the mayor, I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion. So we vote on the amendment. Thank you all for the Robert's Rules clarification. So we have an amendment to the motion. All those in favor, and we have a second to that amendment. All those in favor, open for discussion.
Can we have discussion?
Yes, discussion.
Okay. First of all, on the original motion, I don't have any problems with the intent, nor do I have any problems with the amendment. But what I do have is a problem with clarity. And what is the purpose that you're trying to achieve? Most motions should be very simple. And what we're trying to do right now is approve a funding mechanism. So I would ask you respectfully to consider dropping these amendments and making them their own motion, because that is something that can be achieved, but it can be done procedurally in a very proper fashion. By conflating all of this, you make it very difficult for its implementation and for the staff. And I think we should be clear that funding is different than either discussions or directions to the staff. And for that reason, I would ask that you consider withdrawing the a motion and the amendments as has been proposed and taking them up separately. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, what do
Would you do
think
that?
about that?
In due deference to the chancellor, who is a very wise attorney, and I respect greatly for her longtime commitment, I will acquiesce from that, and we'll
It has to be
take it up
that
separately.
the-
So I'll withdraw the motion if we can withdraw. the second.
Procedurally, the amendment has to be withdrawn first before you can withdraw the motion, but that's procedure.
I would like to withdraw the amendment.
And I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you. And
All right, do we have a new motion?
Madam Chair, could I move that we approve funding scenario 4?
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion. I mean, I will just go around the room and know when there seems to be enough votes to pass something, but I will just say, I again feel like I would have wished we had a scenario that prioritized the small micro organizations more so, and that we had some that definitely didn't fully fund the organizations that have the most capacity to build that gap. But I just want to go on record to say that. But anybody else have anything else they want to say while we have this open for discussion?
call the question.
Is there a second? Okay. Oh, call. So I guess that means we go to the vote.
You have to vote on the call the
Okay,
question.
okay, thank you so much. So there's been a call to question. So all in favor, we're going to vote on the call to question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm tempted to oppose because I have a question, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
Well, you can oppose, but I feel like we have the
Yeah,
motions
it seems
now.
like we got the votes.
All right. Call the question, you know. All right. So the call the question, the motion to call the question is passed. So we will take a vote on the motion to approve scenario 4. Again, so we can get the accurate count, please raise your hand if you vote aye for scenario 4.
So just point of clarification, there's no discussion?
Oh, wait.
There's no discussion after you call the question.
After you call the question.
Got it.
Yeah, right. If you're voting for it, raise your hand, please.
Please keep your hands up.
Okay. Sorry, all opposed? Okay, the motion, I believe, passes with, it passes. I don't know. Sorry.
It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me.
Okay. So the motion for scenario 4 passes. Now, do we need to take a vote on every of the allocations? So we all have the allocations in our packets, so you had the list, we've had a chance to go over it, so we will have to entertain a motion for every last one of the allocations. So this is the opportunity. If you remember seeing that list of people in each group, that if you have a conflict of interest, remember, you recuse yourself from those votes. So this is the opportunity if you are affiliated with any of the groups in those, and I think this must be the conflicts of interest they're putting up there, so everybody can recognize what they are, based on the forms that we filled out. So if you have a conflict of interest, then you would abstain from the vote. And Thrive? This is just for Thrive right now. It's okay. So we're going to start with Thrive. These are the folks that have listed that they have a conflict with one of the organizations that have applied for Thrive funding. Is this correct? Is there anyone else that may have a conflict with Thrive funding? This is Thrive, the artist. And some small organizations too, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Thrive is, National Harmony is not a Thrive recipient. It is a small organization.
So maybe is this the list for small?
It says Thrive up there.
Well, I know, but they could just be mismarked.
Organizations could apply in either Thrive or small, in general operating grant, whichever was higher, that's the one they got.
Okay. So they might be a Thrive funding. Okay. Right. So I will approve a motion to, you can abstain if your name is not on here and you feel like you need to abstain, you can still abstain. It's okay. This is just for people who may not have the list in front of them. But if you feel like you need to abstain based on the artist, it's okay. You can abstain, okay? All right. So I'm calling for a motion to approve the Thrive, for Thrive funding based on the allocations in scenario 4. Do I have a motion? Wait, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Thrive in accordance with scenario 4 at $875,382.50.
Is there a second? Okay, there's a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Oops, I forgot for discussion, but I mean, we've discussed this a lot. Don't kill me. All right. So the micro grant size is next, and it seems that there's no conflicts. So I will entertain a motion for us to approve the grant allocations based on scenario A. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Who made the motion?
I did.
Mary Ann. Okay, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, nobody opposed. All right, so entertain a motion for the small grant category for allocations in scenario 1A.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, I meant scenario 4. Hey, the motion should say scenario 4, not scenario 1. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. And I will entertain a motion for grant allocations for the medium category based on scenario 4.
I so move.
There's a motion from Commissioner Brewer. Thank you. I'm sorry, I blanked on your last name. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, great. That motion passes. Our next motion is based on the mid-size category. I will entertain a motion for grant allocations based in scenario 4 for mid-sized organization. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion from Mary Ann. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Dexter. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I guess, should I have been asking about assumptions? I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask about that because
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I need to be recorded as recusing.
Abstention, yes.
Yeah.
Any abstentions? Thank you. The next category. We have the last category, so I will entertain a motion for, I don't know if we go back, do we want to go back to the first three? I did forget about extensions, I'm sorry, abstentions. But this is for the large organizations. I'll entertain a motion to allocate grants funding based on scenario 4 for large organization category. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
There's a motion. There's a second from Jim. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstentions?
Abstentions?
3 abstentions. Four abstentions, sorry.
4, okay.
It's Sherry abstained, Mary Ann abstained, Janet abstained, and Will.
Point of clarification, abstention is different than recusal or the same thing?
I don't know, ask the legal people. Yes.
I
Yes,
think
okay.
if we're recused, we don't vote at all.
Correct. Okay, right, correct. So, nice, so we're good. Yeah, okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, right, we were good on
Do I
before.
need to clarify or?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. Okay. We got through that. That was really hard. I also just want to say that I know that this has been everybody in this process has been frustrated. The staff, the commission, the community. Nobody is going to leave this room exactly with what they wanted. But I do hope that we all can come together and figure out a better way forward. It is clear that we have a lot of organizations in this city that is bringing life and beauty, and we need to increase art funding. And we're just not going to be able to do that without having everybody in this room really helping and working and advocating towards that and coming together for this. So I just, I hope that we can leave this place and try to find a better path forward. That's all I have to say. So I am going to.
I just wanted to say, I want to thank everyone doing the work on equity, but the move away from anti-racism has a real cost in dollars in people's lives, and its impact's going to be huge for us, and it's going to be hard to get them back to the table now. We've lost our trust.
So, okay, yes. Yeah.
I would like it noted for the record that the motion and the things we just approved expands the pool of funding to additional organizations across this city and moves us towards that. Everyone here knows that, Daniel, that we are not necessarily doing everything that we want to do, but we're dealing with the realism that we face in the limitations of the funding. So thank you.
Okay. Public Arts Committee is Paul, is that Paul and Ann? Leslie? Awesome. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Chuck.
I would like to thank everybody for staying who is in the room still after the money's been decided for the artist that is going to be featured, and it's not just about money. So, so we are honored to have Janira Vicepo. She is a Puerto Rican artist and educator living and working in Nashville, Tennessee. She is a self-taught artist creating vibrant collage tapestries using techniques such as, but not limited to, printmaking, cyanotype, dye resist, and hand embroidery. Vicepo's work is ever evolving, and she enjoys expanding her horizons by not restricting herself to a specific medium. Her work is heavily influenced by her experience of living in the Puerto Rican diaspora, and examines the rich biodiversity of her culture through the natural world. Vicepo has shown her work and taught in various places in Nashville, Tennessee on the screen. In 2019, she studied traditional woodblock printmaking that's usually done in Japan. Vicepo is also one of 60 Nashville artists featured in the Metro Arts Lending Library program. So if you could welcome Janira, and thank you, Janira.
And I teach various techniques that I have taught myself. It's really important for me as an artist and in my practice to make art accessible to the public. So that is one of the key things I do. I also work part-time at Belfry Theater, and I've been there for about 5 years or so, I believe. And I also work for Studio NPL, Nashville Public Library,
It is a studio mentorship program ran through the Nashville Public Library Foundation, I believe. And that is a really empowering job for me because I get to work with teenagers after school and teach them art and various techniques, also having to deal with technology, like 3D printing, Photoshop, and stuff like that, just like techie stuff. So that's been really fun to do. And yeah, I was a lending library artist in 2020, and that was really important for me because during the pandemic, I felt like there wasn't a lot of options as a working artist to live and work as an artist. After I got approved for that grant, I also got approved as an artist in residence at Coop Gallery in 2020, who I think is also funded by Metro Arts. So all in all, I love what I do. I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to find ways to get it funded. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna pass over, and Leslie, because I believe we have some art we need to approve.
Some exciting proposals. So Campbell West, our chair of our public art committee, unfortunately could not be here today, but I'm here with Paul, who's also on our public art committee, so feel free to jump in if there's anything that we discussed in the public art committee that needs to be added. But we have some exciting proposals for you today. The first is a proposal for a 2024 pilot project at the main library for a gallery. You all may be familiar with this space on the mezzanine level above circulation. So we have a long-standing partnership with the library. We have public art at Goodlettsville, at the main branch, at Bellevue. Of course, two new exciting projects that are currently in progress at the Donaldson Library. But the library staff recently came to us because they don't have the staff, the funding to program this wonderful space that they have that has great visibility, that has security, and of course Metro Arts has at times had her own gallery space but does not currently. So this really could be a very exciting partnership. As we have talked about how we could make this work, we're thinking about 3 temporary exhibits a year that would feature local artists, of course. We're even thinking about a new, and you'll hear this in a second, a new phase of our lending library program and how this could be our very first exhibit here in this space. We could have a preview. So instead of the artwork immediately going to the branches where it will be permanently placed, it could be at the main library first for a preview and a dedication when it's all there together. For these second and third exhibits of 2024, we're proposing that we would put out a call to curators and would involve local artists for these 2 exhibits based on a theme. We are thinking we'd like to involve the community and would love to have community voting on possible themes, and then let that be what the curator brings back proposals based on those themes. We have $50,000 in temporary funds that is already in place that we would like to use for this, and that would include the curator and artist fees, art handling, installation, and exhibit graphics. And of course, we have a contract with an art handler currently. One is in process. We actually have a solicitation out now, but we have had this previously with Art Up Nashville, so we intend to always have an art handler that we could use for this purpose. And then, of course, we have the benefit of the library, of this call to curators going out across the library's network as well as our own. So we feel like this would really be a great pilot project for us, and hopefully it would be a long-term relationship. Anything you want to add?
I think it's fantastic, the public library gallery, which is huge, by the way. It's a huge space. I think it's going to be a real little feather in our cap to have these local artists distributed out there, and again, free to the public, and I can't commend you enough for that. I think it's fabulous.
Well, they came to us. The library came to us, so it was just
But they came
hard
to you because you were worthy.
Well,
of it, so it's fantastic.
and you just made me think of something else. If Chuck, you go back, this exhibit space offers some exciting ways that we can display artwork. They have their own craftsmen there at the library who can make display cases, so it allows us the opportunity to think of 3D sculpture that could be in these display cases. They also, in these little alcoves, have some artwork that's currently hanging too, so it wouldn't just be limited to wall hung artwork, but of course there's plenty of space for wall or digital art. Yes, there's all kinds of possibilities.
I started eating the rest of my lunch, so it's a terrible idea. Okay, thank you, Mary Leslie. Questions and discussion? Okay. It sounds like we're ready to make them, awesome. Well, if there's not any conversation about this, then I think we can move to a motion. The Public Art Committee recommended the approval of the Nashville Public Main Library Gallery Arts Exhibit for 2024, open to Davidson County curators and artists with a project budget not to exceed $50,000. So that's the motion.
I make such a motion.
Great. Is there a second?
My second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you. Our next proposal, as I mentioned, was for the lending library. We've been thinking about doing this phase 2 of our lending library for a while. The branches are, excited to have it. It's been such a success here at Southeast. If you get a chance, go over to the library. The back room is where all the artwork is displayed. And at Madison, and this is actually Madison, our dedication event there. It's just been so successful. I was at Madison the other day. Every piece but one was checked out.
Yeah, and I'll just, point of art not being there. I get one every 3 months, and my thing ran out last week, and I went there, and lots of beautiful art on the wall that I can't take home. So, gosh darn it. I would say I make a motion to gosh darn it.
Well, she is referencing, we have vinyls on the wall. That was part of our plan so that people could see what's there, even if it's checked out.
Yeah, very tempting.
Yes, they could see it, and then they know to put it on hold.
Yeah.
So, yes, we would plan to do the same thing next time. You'll go to the next slide. So, yes, I kind of went through this. Last time we did this, we had 60 artworks. It was split evenly, 30 in Madison and 30 at Southeast. For our 2020 project, we had a purchase maximum of $700, and our acquisition, purchase acquisition framing budget was $100,000. Open to residents, artists with residence or studio in Davidson County. We allowed artists to submit 3 artworks that we could consider, the selection panel can consider, and we're thinking of doing very similar next time, but go to the next slide. But what would be different is, of course, our locations, about the same number of artwork, 60, but maybe even up to 80. There are multiple locations, branches that have expressed interest. We'd like to wait on some branches, for example, Donaldson, where we currently have 2 projects, Bordeaux and Luby, that are currently undergoing manager transitions, and Main Branch, which we have this gallery. So this leaves some of these others that we would like to go ahead and add, include them in phase 2. That's East, Edge Hill, Edmondson, Green Hills, Hermitage, and Old Hickory. So because this might be more artworks, and because we would like to up the purchase maximum from $700 to $2,000, we've also increased the artwork acquisition framing installation budget to $200,000. Again, we'd like to ask artists to submit 3 artworks, and like with the temporary exhibits, we really have the benefit of getting the word out through the library's media channels as well as our own.
think that's it. And of course, this, like I was saying before, this would be the start happening now if we get your approval. And then this would be the first of the 3 temporary exhibits at the main branch library.
So of those 3 that each artist submits, who actually picks the one?
Well, we have a selection panel, and that is part of their role. So it's going to be tough. You know, they are not only choosing the artist, but then they take it to the next step and they select which artwork from those 3. Yes.
Thank you, Ann Leslie. Okay. Well, since we actually have an opportunity for discussion after the motion, I'm going to go ahead and see if we can call for the motion to approve the Lending Library in Phase 2. That would go to East, Edge Hill, Edmondson Pike, Green Hills, Hermitage, Old Hickory branches, and open Davidson County artists with a project budget not to exceed $200,000.
I so move.
Oops, seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All right, open for discussion.
The first lending library was one of the very first votes I had on the Arts Commission. It has turned into such a grand success. I have people all over the place who said, I saw, or
It is great.
I checked out.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
And great success.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you, Marianne. Anybody else have any praise or questions? Yes.
I second Marianne's.
Commissioner McCoy?
I want you to, can you hear me? I want you to consider perhaps letting the Lending Library put some of their artwork up in the Metro Courthouse. And that's the old one and the new one across the way, because people need a little brightness in their life when they come to court. I really think it would be a big, strong positive. Thank you.
Yeah, not to make it belabor your point, but you're right. You're so right. This whole lending library thing has a million iterations that we could, and many directions that it can go in, not only at libraries, but beyond. And there's a million things we could do to just make this grow, grow, grow. It's a great program.
And I will just add, we do have some artwork at the courthouse and that's in our collection. So yes, but we could certainly add to that in future phases.
Just a question. Do you know how many artists we will be able to support through this project?
Well, I mean, if we follow the same models before and we, it's 60 to 80, artists, I mean, I can't imagine we would be purchasing, multiples from the same artist in this, phase.
Mhm.
So it's going to be at least 60 to 80.
That's good. I saw that, but I just wanted
And
to.
then, of course, there's, the local artists that would be involved in the temporary exhibits too. So we'd be paying artists and curators through that also.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Wait, we had a vote on that motion. That was just discussion.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I feel like everybody else, we good on the discussion? All right. We had a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, that motion has passed. Yeah.
Chuck? Okay. All right. So the final project that I want to bring to you today is one that you saw at our last meeting. This is the permanent supportive housing that is under construction currently at Joe Johnston and between 1st and 2nd Avenue, so just north of the Birch Courthouse. We have at our, well, go back please. So you'll see the area that we identified last time for public art. It is this retaining wall at Joe Johnston and First that also adjoins the Greenway and a future park area that Parks is considering. And then of course there are these planters too. So it really could get your attention whether you're using the park or driving by, but then it also draws you in towards the front entrance where those planters are. So an exciting and highly visible area for public art. Next slide. Yeah. So this building is going to be a 5-story building, as you saw in the rendering, about 90 units. serving those needing stable and affordable housing. We've been meeting with General Services, the architects, and others, and they expect they'll complete it in 2024. Next slide. So where we are now, you approved that budget of $200,000, and now we are looking at the selection panel. We put out a call to artists, and it was amazing how many people applied, and people who really had a connection to this. And we just knew that they really felt passionately about this building and its purpose, and this is the group of them. We always want to have, and in fact, our public art guidelines require that we have an artist on every selection panel. We have 2 artists. We also have a Metro site sponsor in April Calvin, newly appointed to Metro Office of Homeless Services, will be one of the voting members on this panel, if you should approve this slate. We also are required to have non-voting members of the selection panel. We are evaluating who on the chair should chair this from the Public Art Committee or perhaps the Commission. And then we also have a Metro procurement representative and a member of the design team. But what we would love to have your approval on are these 9 members of this selection panel slate. And I can tell you, it's a all of them are from different council districts, different ages, ethnicities. I mean, it really is a great, diverse group, but all very passionate about this.
Thank you, Ann Leslie. Okay. I feel like we should move to the motion. We can always have some discussion and questions after the motion has been made in time of just trying to make sure we get through the rest of the agenda. So I believe the motion, can we go to the next slide, Chuck? I think the motion is to approve this, right? So staff is recommending that we approve the selection panel for this permanent supportive housing art project. I think we heard about this too at the last meeting. And we got to approve the project, or at least see how it's going to work. Now we're planning on approving the panel for it. So I'll entertain a motion. There's a motion to approve the selection panel slate for the permanent supportive housing and public arts. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second from Dexter, right? All right, discussion. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. If there is any conflicts, we don't have to vote this time, okay, Derek? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much, Ann Leslie. I think our final up for approval, Daniel, are you presenting this one?
Yes, so in 2018, I think we had a public art community investment plan, and one of the recommendations there was for us to do a study or like a plan to get murals stood up. And originally when we started the public arts process, murals didn't last more than a year, and since then techniques have changed considerably. There are options to print it on vinyl or parachute cloth now that can last 10, 20 years. So we're looking at what that means for us. And then we also, in the Thrive process, we got 31 mural applications. We weren't expecting that high a number of mural applications, and we didn't want to fund murals without aligning it with our public art. So we just wanted to take the time and do that. The other thing that's happening is that when we didn't have capacity, right? Like in 2018, we didn't have enough staff to get this going right away from the recommendation, and then COVID happened. So we didn't move quickly enough on the mural project or standing up a mural program. But since then, NDOT has stood up its own mural program at $5,000, which wouldn't even pay for the supplies of a large-scale mural. Or if you need to get a genie lift to paint the walls, it wouldn't pay for even the genie lift. Participatory budget has been pushing a lot of murals on us. So it's creating this wide disparity within the metro departments, where some departments are paying a mural artist $5,000 and participatory budget is willing to pay for up to $120,000. And it's because we've been just taking the back seat on that. So I presented this to PAC, and we're asking for $25,000 to bring in a consultant to help us stand up a mural arts program. And they might say that we're not the right fit, or we are not, but they'll do the study, they'll look at it and see if it's appropriate, and they'll say, here are the materials you can use, can it come out of percent fund? If not percent fund, where does it come out of? So those are some of the things that this consultant will do. So that's the request we have right now. And PAC has approved it.
Okay, questions?
I have a question, and that is, we went through a very stressful funding examination here, and when we make a commitment like this, it's going to come out of that money next year, right?
This will come out, no, the study will come out of our percent fund, our public art percent fund. It's not from the grants pool.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't clear.
And I just want to be clear too, just this process of creating this plan will help us, figure out how in the future we might be able to use the public percent fund for mural projects, since there seem to be a high demand for those through our proposals for grants now, also other departments and other scenarios where we're getting a lot of mural projects. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Jim?
So this doesn't, and I was looking around for Ann Leslie, but she may have stepped out.
She's right here.
Oh, there she is. She's at the table. I know that the public art team developed and has guidelines and has done a lot of work to help local organizations who want to do this kind of at least know the rules of the road. So this consultant is not coming in to like redo any of that work or change all that dynamics. This is more about figuring out the funding stream for how we pay for these murals, potentially out of percent funds.
Well, it could be a lot of things. So yes, like Daniel said, this came out of the community investment plan. A mural assistance kind of a center, which may be workshops, it may be funding, it may, so whatever the mural community and people who are interested in murals need from Metro Arts, kind of figuring out what the needs are and how we can respond. So it's not, exactly clear what that will be. But what you're mentioning, I guess, are the temporary art on Metro property guidelines and the mural guide. So we do have some resources, but it has not been, that mural resource guide kind of lets, organizations, artists do it on their own. And it really doesn't have a lot of direct assistance from Metro Arts. But this new program might have more of that.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any more? Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion to approve the development of a mural assistance program with hiring a mural consultant for up to $25,000 and Community Mural Advocates Panel. This is going to come out of the percent fund, by the way. Is there a motion? I said I'd entertain a motion, sorry. Derek, you want to make the motion? And Carol, you second? Awesome. Nice. Great. Any more discussion on this motion? Yeah.
It still seems a little nebulous, I guess, about what exactly this person does. So I'm wondering, if you could explain just a little more about what exactly this consultant is doing. I'm sorry.
Sure. So this consultant would come in, meet with the artists in the community, and then look at all the mural options, and then help us think through what we can do and what should be funded from percent fund, if anything. He might say none of it should come from percent fund. Or she might say it should come from temporary art project budget. That's a separate line item. It's not grants. We can put in a temp grant project request every year when the budget goes. So that's what they're going to look at. And also the schools of murals itself are changing. People are moving to digital designs and printing on vinyl or parachute cloth. But then that's killing off craftspeople who did pointillism or stenciling or watercolors. And so he might say, don't do any of the vinyl, don't do any of the parachute. You need to invest in the trade so that those trades don't get lost. So we don't know what the recommendation is going to be. He's going to listen to all the artists, hear what they have to say, and then say, here's what we need for Nashville. It cannot be funded by you. They have to get funded by private people, or if they use something that's long enough, it could be funded by percent fund. So that's why it is nebulous, because we don't know where it's going, and the mural arts field itself is changing. And since from 2018 to now already, there's been a lot of technological shifts happening. And one of the other things we've talked about is like, can we buy the digital rights to the mural, kind of like how we have the lending library for the print? Can we get a digital library where we put QR codes and people can hold their phone up and see art? And so we don't know what it means, because I'm not a technology person in that sense. So a lot of this is emerging, and we're hoping the consultants can help us think of it and figure out the path, and so we're not left behind.
Do we, I mean, is this something where there's like local expertise on this, or is it going to be like a national call?
It'll be a national call, yeah.
Sure. Questions? Okay. We have a motion and a second, and we've had some discussion about it. So let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And an abstention from Carol.
I'm going with what Dexter said, and that is, I feel a little confused about the need for this, because I think it's a good idea, and I think you should just go forward with it. I think artists know what survives and what doesn't survive, and when they make a plan, they can tell us whether what they are using will survive. So I just want to not vote on it.
Okay. Abstention from Carol.
So just to clarify, this is because we've put a barrier in place to funds by saying it has to be permanent, and that means over a certain number of years. And so artists have been continually trying to figure out how they can bend themselves into a pretzel to get our funding. And they've moved ahead without us with NDOT and participatory budget. And now either we get on the train or artists will leave us and move on without us.
I have a question. With the motion made, it's Vivian. With the motion made, Commissioner McCoy seconded that. So,
Oh, no, we're just talking about the motion, yeah. Yes, the original motion, I think we said Derek made the motion, and Commissioner McCoy second.
but she abstained.
She abstained on the vote, yeah.
So she can't make,
Made the motion.
if she seconded the motion, is what I'm saying.
Is that,
Tessa's looking it up. Sorry.
I think the motion just moves it forward.
Just needed clarity on that.
I thought I thought somebody making a motion just moved it forward for a vote, but I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I think that's right.
We're
Because-
making sure Tessa.
Because the discussion happens after that, all
Yeah.
that, and so that could change your
You
mind.
can change your mind,
Even,
yeah.
even if you're right.
So then we're good, right? We don't have to go back.
Go ahead.
Can I just add one thing? Just that, there was a lawsuit, I think it was even one of the wings in the Gulch, where who owns the rights, the artist does, and for them to keep that, given the traffic, all the traffic that's benefiting retail, that there was a potential lawsuit of them, of the artist taking it. And so there's reasons to protect us, and have a consultant that makes sure we don't get into any kind of hot water with the IP, the intellectual property.
Yeah. Okay, well, while Tessa's over there hard on the machine, let us know if we need to retake that vote or make another motion, but we're gonna move forward for time's sake, and then we will come back to that if we need to. But Daniel, I'm turning over to you to talk about a great opportunity.
This is just a quick update. We have a finalist meeting on September 8th with the mayor's office and Bloomberg. We're one of 17 cities that's in the short list for $1 million grant. So if we get it, we'll have to do even more work than we have. So it's going to be but it's a great project. Artist Stephanie Pruitt-Gaines, who used to be on both the Public Arts Committee and the Commission, is working with Judge Sheila Calloway on getting 10,000 fragments of poetry that she's going to weave into temporary public art installations per the Bloomberg grant guidelines that'll kind of activate the community and get it ready for Judge Sheila Calloway's Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment. So it's just an update. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody have any questions about the update? Okay, so we do have just a few more approvals. We need to approve the meeting minutes from our executive committee meeting that happened July 14th, the full commission meeting that happened the 20th, and then, this past, the commission, full commission meeting that we happened August 11th. So we'll do each one of those individually. I think you all had the notes sent to you, but if not, they're in the packet here. We're going to take up the July 14th notes first. So as soon as someone feels comfortable, I will entertain a motion to approve our meeting minutes from the executive committee, July 14th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Janet, I think Janet may have won that one. So the second goes to Janet. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Oh, well, you know what, we're gonna keep going. September 20th, 2023, full commission notes, I believe that they, July 20th, that's what I meant. They are in your packet here, and also sent to you. So as soon as someone feels comfortable, I will entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
So moved.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, a second from Janet. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those, we got some discussion.
I'm a little confused about this minutes. So under C, the approval of minutes for April 20th and May 18th. So now, at this July meeting, we were approving those. In that, under that section, you have me saying something, but I wasn't there.
You weren't at the April 20th or the?
No, I wasn't at the July 20th meeting. I was away. So I think, if I'm reading it correctly, I'm not sure.
He wasn't there. He wasn't.
I was on the other side of the world, really.
I remember the discussion about this, but I don't think it was
Okay, so we have an amendment to the meeting notes. I think the amendment should just be that we remove, are we sure that it was Campbell? We're gonna have to go back and look, so I think we should make an amendment to approve, or we can either approve these minutes maybe the next meeting, once we have a chance to look into that.
We can approve them with, just with this correction being made.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna
Just correct, yeah.
entertain so we'll have an amendment to remove Dexter from, I'm gonna make I'll pose an amendment that we move Dexter from the meeting minutes, item C.
Page 5.
Page 5, and in the section, in item C, section 4. So I'm gonna make that motion amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. All those in favor on the amendment? Aye. Okay. I hope I did that process right. So now we have the full commission notes that are still, we had a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
You can't actually approve the minutes until we know who did make that motion, correct?
Well, we made an amendment to remove the name, but that's why I said I don't know if we want to just wait and approve it once we have that information or not.
I don't know that you can approve the minutes unless you have.
Okay, I think we should probably make a motion to table the approval of these minutes until we can clarify.
July 20th.
July 20th minutes, until we can clarify the information and who made the motion.
I'd like to make the motion to table the July 20 commission minutes. Ah, crap. All right.
So we need a motion to withdraw the meeting approval of this minute notes. And
Who made the motion? Right.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember who made the motion.
I don't either.
For the
minutes.
July 20th, who made the
Yeah,
motion?
who made the motion?
Oh, I made the motion? Yeah, yeah.
And then I seconded it.
Then you can withdraw.
Yeah.
it,
Janet seconded it.
For July 20th, Bird was first.
Mary Ann
And
Reed.
then Kurtz was second.
So I will withdraw my motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
So now we're good. We don't have
We're
to do
good.
anything.
Now
Okay.
it's,
And August 11th.
So before we entertain this motion, please make sure you read over it. And when someone feels comfortable, I will accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our full commission meeting that we had on August 11th.
We have to have a special meeting.
To put some, okay.
By November 1st, we have to have. It's okay.
Do you want to talk about now?
No, she's going down.
Okay.
Okay. Is
I'll
our entertainment
make a motion to approve those minutes.
We have a motion to approve the August 11th, 2023 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Angelico. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. All right. Next, I believe we actually have a couple more approvals, right?
Yeah, nominating committee.
So we have, well, the nominating committee, at our last meeting, the meeting notes we just approved, we nominated our fearless leader here, Vice Chair Angelico, to be the chair and make recommendations from the nomination committee. So I'm passing it over to you.
Yeah, the nominating committee did not receive any recommendations except that I would be chair. So we recommend that. And that's it.
We might have to have a special meeting to get secretary and vice chair nominated. It has to be done in September according to the bylaws. And we're not meeting in September right now, so we might have to have a special call meeting just for that.
Hopefully a quick one, if anyone would like to be vice chair or secretary. Please email Daniel.
Or you can say that now.
Yeah, if anybody wants to take the job, you ain't got to wait. You can do it today. All right,
You
well.
can take some time to think about it, but not too
So,
much time.
but we can go ahead and make the nomination, we can make a vote, on, the nomination for chair. And then the term would begin in November 1st. So if you are considering the other two things, your term would begin November 1st. Okay. Well, we have, the nominating chair, has made a recommendation, to nominate, Commissioner Angelico, is for chair in the next term. And I will entertain a motion for that.
Also move.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. I just want to say that real loud.
Welcome, Commissioner.
Hey, give me your name tag.
Turn in your badge. There you go. Awesome. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you for being incoming chair. It is really important and I appreciate you.
Everybody pray for me.
Okay. Yes.
I would just encourage, I know stepping into leadership is not a fun thing because it does take a little more time, but there are a number of us who are rolling off at the end of the year. And so we're going to have, and there's going to be brand new people. I think there's four, Daniel.
Yeah.
So some y'all will have to step up. Vice Chair and Secretary, I'll be out in January.
Who is,
Others will, but I just encourage you to do it.
who is rolling off?
I'm not sure. I need to look.
I know Jim has served his term. He's term limited. Sherry's gonna roll on, yeah.
You're going off?
Yeah.
Are there just two people rolling off?
Mary Ann.
My term is also up, but the hope is that I would be reappointed.
But this is her first of the 2 3-year terms, not your second term.
Right, my term is up, but I am not term limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have the next one, do we have to approve the PAC? I thought I saw that there's somebody
Yes,
approved for
yes,
PAC committee.
there it is.
Yes, so we also have an addition to our PAC committee. And I think I can make this appointment, we don't have to take a vote on it. But PAC has recommended a new committee member, Kara Robinson. I think you all have her information and would have received that in your packet. She has a pretty extensive resume, and she would have a 3-year term on the PAC Public Art Committee. So I will make this appointment to the PAC Committee. And I want to thank Kara for serving. Nice. Okay, now I'm going to pass it over to Daniel for the Executive Director's report.
Sure, I'll make it brief. So I mentioned the hiring delays that we continue to face in the executive committee meeting. We wanted to open the jobs up around end of May, but we were told because of the pay plan changes that were about to happen July 1, we had to wait till July 1. In July 1, we gave the positions, we have 7 open positions to HR, and they said they received requests from all departments, so they couldn't open it right away. Finally got it open, closed on August 15th, and then I just got an email yesterday saying that they're freezing all of our hiring because the budget scenario is not clear, so hiring has been frozen. So Ellen is hopefully meeting with us next Wednesday with HR. I have staff who have told me that they have received offers at other places. We are looking at reclassification. If the reclassifications don't come through and if the hiring doesn't happen, our department will basically shut down. Like we cannot continue the way we're moving. I mean, we just cannot. So I hope Ellen being there will move that. And we're not getting a lot of support from our peer agencies in Metro right now. And then, so that's pushed back all of our hiring, which then pushes all the projects that we were hoping to start. And so there's just this ongoing capacity issue and timeline issue with staff. And there's also a review of our granting process. I mentioned this in the executive committee as well last time. Legal has asked for grants compliance to review our contracting process because last year's contracts, payments were made before the contracts were executed. So legal has asked grants compliance to review all of our work. And so on top of having, being understaffed by 7 people, now we have to go through this audit process that's going to be extensive. So I just wanted to keep you all updated on that. We're getting ready to launch our cultural planning. We had hoped we'd have staff by then. If HR continues to keep the hiring frozen, we will have to pause the cultural planning. I just don't have the capacity to start that right now. Cultural planners are looking at someone who can give 50% of the time, at least 2 staff members who can do that for the next year to get the cultural plan going. And if HR does not lift the freeze, we will pause the cultural planning. Right now, it's scheduled to start October 30th through November 4th. For a week-long in Nashville site visit. Following that, they'll have surveys, focus groups, one-on-one Zoom meetings. And we were hoping to get this done ahead of the budget cycle next year. So you can see the ripple effect. So if you don't get the hiring, the cultural plan won't happen, then we won't have preliminary findings for the budget next year. So that's kind of the holding pattern we're in right now.
I've just got a question. Is there anything that commissioners can do just to discourage the hiring freeze?
Hopefully we'll find out next Wednesday. Yeah. No, I think she left. Chuck, are we done with the artists? We're done with the artists. Yeah.
Okay. I believe that was the last agenda item. I want to thank everybody for the.
Wait, old and new business.
Oh, do we have old and new business?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
We did the featured artist.
Yeah, the featured artist, we're not gonna do that. Yeah.
Because I'm new, I see things, and one of the things I saw is that we need to have a policy that limits public comment to 5 minutes. I appreciate everything that everybody said, but took up so much of our time today, and even the Metro Council limits public comments, the people that come, to a certain amount of time. I'm recommending 5 minutes. If you all want to make it 10, 15, 20 minutes, but I think we need to put a limit on how long we let people come up and speak. It is important, but some people were concise and some people were loquacious.
Yeah, I mean, I think we normally do have a time limit on it. It's been 2 minutes, I think, for these, and we've done this in the past, but
New law went in effect on July 1 that said unless we have a written policy, we cannot do that. So we are getting that policy in place. We didn't want to put the policy in the midst of the grant conversation for the public to think that we were squashing their.
Without putting
yeah.
pressure on you, can we have that policy in place by our next executive committee meeting and vote on it?
No,
Not
like,
executive.
any bylaws changes have to be put out to the
Public.
I mean, we don't have to, but it's good practice to
Yeah.
just let them know here the public
I don't
changes
think we're in a
happen.
rush,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's
I
in
wouldn't want to move it
process.
forward.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I would like to have it be a policy. So if you're going to put this out, I would like another policy, and that is that in all of our grant contracts, I was just talking to Derek, I want to be sure that there's a provision in our grant contracts with the artist or the agency, that if we pay for it, the rights to all of the artwork that is created are assigned to the Metro Arts Commission. And why not?
No, we cannot. It's
Well-
intellectual property. We cannot. It's specifically artists own so we're not, like, we don't know the value of the art. We're not paying for 100% of the art. We're not paying for the labor that went into creating the art. That's not how the arts industry handles copyright.
Daniel, I'm not giving legal more work. There was a recent case that was just determined about Andy Warhol piece that we all know Andy's art. He borrowed and rechanged it, but they lost that case. And
Yeah, I
so-
mean, the photographer lives in Nashville.
Yeah, so I don't know that we can do that. I mean, I don't
Well, we
wanna-
can't protect ourselves from being sued, essentially.
I can research it and get back to the commission.
Yeah, but we should have something in place to protect ourselves.
I do think that's the only reason that I mention this is we need to do what we can to prevent Metro Arts from being exposed. And we're not buying the art. If we are funding art, then we need to see what protections are available to us.
Yeah, we have an insurance policy that covers us, and we have.
Well, that's
yeah.
not what I was thinking.
Well, I hope that Metro Legal, because the contracts are not contracts that we put together, that is contracts that put through legal. So I hope
Legal,
that they are
yeah.
thinking through all of those various important things that will protect not just Metro Arts, but Metro government. But thank you, Tessa, for looking into it so that we can be clear about what those things are. Anything else? Paul?
I don't have a problem with people rambling on. I really don't. I learned so much from hearing these people go on. I don't have a problem with it. Listen, I'm here.
But I will say, if we have it as a policy, you can always suspend that rule. For the most part, I don't think it will be as dramatic as it was today. And I agree with you. I think a lot of them were very meaningful and moving. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's time, and I think that's the end of our agenda, so
Our next meeting is October the 19th. Our next meeting is October the 19th.
All right. Oof. Good to see you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.